Who are the best special forces in the world? Here's the list in no particular order. Number 12, Alpha Group, Russia. Alpha Group was launched back in 1974 as a counterterrorism unit during the era of the Soviet Union. This special unit survived the collapse of the Soviet Union and currently operates under the Federal Security Service of Russia, which is the successor to the KGB. Since its inception, Alpha Group's main objectives have expanded a great deal. Basically, they now do everything and anything from intel collection to carrying out secret operations domestically and internationally. Although little is known about the exact nature of its primary directives, most people in the know say that the unit is authorized to act under the direct control of Russia's top political leadership. Yeah, Putin definitely controls these guys. The Alpha Group has an international reputation as a vicious but effective counter-terror unit. The group's involvement in a 1985 hostage situation in Lebanon earned them their ruthless reputation. The rumors are that members of the Alpha Group began to take on tactics as bad as the kidnappers, such as taking hostages of the family members of the people holding the hostages. Number 11, Snow Leopard Commando Unit, China. The official name for this special force from China is 3rd Group, 13th Detachment People's Armed Police Beijing General Corps, so it makes sense why they have an official nickname. Before their latest name, the unit was referred to as Snow Wolf, a reference to the Arctic wolves for their endurance in the harshest of conditions. The Snow Leopard Commando Unit was quietly established in 2002. They trained in secrecy in areas such as riot control, counterterrorism, bomb disposal, and anti-hijacking. Since then, the unit has been deployed in different parts of the world, such as Russia in anti-terror operations. They've also been in Iraq and Afghanistan to offer protection to Chinese emissaries. To join the elite unit, potential candidates must have served in the People's Armed Police for at least a year. Once they apply, there's the non-stop physical and psychological tests before being accepted into training. Then there's even more tests. The soldiers who are chosen learn to handle themselves in all sorts of situations. They're taught to drive any type of vehicle, handle a range of weapons, dispose of explosives, and of course, learn hand-to-hand combat. Number 10, Special Naval Warfare Force, Spain. This Spanish special unit was formed pretty recently, especially when compared to most other special forces. It was created in 2009 after the merging of several Spanish Navy units, namely the Special Operations Unit, the Special Combat Divers Unit, and the Special Explosive Diffusers Unit. That means this unit is composed largely of Marines, but make no mistake, the unit is just as effective on land as it is in the water. Their duties, aside from counterterrorism, include reconnaissance, evacuation of hostages, and general military assistance. Being such a fairly new unit, they don't have many publicly known missions, but they have been a part of major operations across the world, such as operations in Lebanon, Somalia, and Haiti. They recently just had a short scuffle with Somali pirates who abducted a Spanish fishing vessel back in 2019. They managed to capture 2 of the pirates, but the ship remained under captivity for over 47 days before it was finally released. Number 9, Grom, Poland. This special unit was formed just back in 1990 to help with the safety of the emigration of Jewish people from the Soviet Union into Israel. GROM is a Polish acronym that roughly translates to Group for Operational Maneuvering Response. The unit was named in honor of the Silent Unseen, Poland's Special Operations Unit during World War II. On the other hand, GROM also means thunder in Polish. That's pretty fitting for a highly trained special operations force, don't you think? Besides the usual counterterrorism defense, the unit is also well trained in the medical field, and their combat operations have been termed as surgical. This has given the unit yet another name, the Surgeons. Candidates applying to serve in GROM have to pass the typical series of physical and psychological durability tests, but the most famous test candidates have to go through is called a truth test. It sounds a little intimidating, but what it really means is that these tests are designed to show the truth about a soldier. This so-called truth test comes on the last day of the selection process. On that day, the candidates are in a series of field tests on an obstacle course that's miles long. Except the candidates don't know exactly how far they have to go to finish. Instructors are at different checkpoints actively giving discouragement of, "You're not going to make it, there's no point in going further," or simply just, give up. Apparently, there is no set distance, and it's all on the candidate. Number 8. Navy SEALs, United States. Navy SEALs are perhaps some of the most well-known special forces around the world. It makes sense since they've been involved in some of the most high-profile takedowns, such as the secret mission to find Osama bin Laden. It's no surprise that most elite special forces around the world take a few training tips from Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs were established in 1962. Navy SEALs essentially stand for Navy, Sea, Air, and Land teams. They have various responsibilities to get anything done for the U.S., such as capturing or eliminating high-profile targets and gathering intelligence. Besides their high-level operations, SEALs are also known for their grueling exercises that see the vast majority of recruits quitting. And these exercises start even before the main SEAL training kicks off. To qualify for the famous basic underwater demolition training, candidates have to first pass the physical screening tests. It consists of a 500-yard swim in 12 and a half minutes, 50 push-ups in 2 minutes, 50 sit-ups in 2 minutes, 10 pull-ups in 2 minutes, and a 1.5-mile run in under 10 and a half minutes. Candidates who excel at this stage become eligible for the main SEAL training, and that can take up to a year. Then there's the last week, famously known as Hell Week, where there's very little sleep and there's, let's just call it, plenty of intense activity. Number 7. Special Services Group, Pakistan. Black Storks is the other popular name for Pakistan's special service group because of their distinctive headgear. They were formed back in 1956 and they're still active today. As a special operations force, the SSG is tasked with carrying out 5 main objectives: counterterrorism operations, foreign internal defense, unconventional warfare, direct action, and reconnaissance. The Black Storks do also take part in search and rescue and peacekeeping, just as examples. Their training ranks high up among the world's special forces as far as physical exertion is concerned. Recruits have to go through a 25-week commando course and during extreme physical conditions and train in hand-to-hand combat. For example, recruits have to be able to complete a 36-mile march in 12 hours in full gear. Oh yeah, then there's the ability of running 5 miles in 50 minutes in full gear too. The toughness of the physical training is a big reason why only 10 to 15% of the recruits make the final cut. Number 6. Delta Force, United States. Delta Force is another household name as far as the world's elite forces are concerned. Officially known as the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, this unit was created in the 1970s to counter terrorism. The vast majority of Delta Force's missions are classified, but a few do find their way to the public. For example, there was Operation Red Dawn that led to the capture of Saddam Hussein. Most soldiers in the Delta Force unit are usually trained servicemen drawn from the Navy, Air Force, Army Rangers, and Green Berets. As far as getting in, do we really need to say it's tough? Former Delta Force instructor Paul Howe talked about the high dropout rate. He said that out of the 2 classes he led of 120 applicants each, only 12 to 14 candidates made it through. Eric Haney's book, Inside Delta Force, described the physical requirements in detail. Standard tests include things such as the usual push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run, but then there are the inverted crawls and swimming 100 meters fully clothed. There's also the all-night navigation courses. Apparently, it starts with going 18 miles while carrying 40 pounds of gear. Those 40 pounds, as well as the distance of the courses, go up each time candidates do it. The time allowed to finish the course also goes down each time. By the end, the distance is 40 miles with 45 pounds of gear. This is known as the Long Walk. Number 5. Sayeret Matkal, Israel. Israel's most elite special unit is the Sayeret Matkal, or simply just the unit. It's been in operation since 1957. Sayeret, in this case, translates to Special Reconnaissance, which pretty much sums up the main purpose of this unit, and that's to collect intelligence. But that doesn't mean it can't neutralize other situations. The unit is highly trained in and tasked with any hostage rescue and counterterrorism needs. Having said all that, the extent of Sayeret Matkal's ability is, of course, under wraps. The unit's existence was not officially made to the public until the 1980s, but high-profile operations by the unit are well known now. For example, Operation Thunderbolt was back in 1976 when the unit was called in to rescue a hijacked Air France plane that was traveling from Paris to Tel Aviv. So, how does someone get in? The recruitment process takes place twice a year and consists of an endurance camp with several sleepless days. Only those soldiers that pull through are taken into training for yet another round of endurance activities and general combat training. So, do doctors and psychologists need to be called in for this? The answer is yes. They're consistently watching to make sure the soldiers can actually survive. Number 4, Special Air Service, United Kingdom. British Special Air Service was founded in 1941, and it's gone on to establish itself as one of the best elite forces in the world. Its functions have evolved beyond the battlefield over time. Much like other special forces, the SAS is a counterterrorism unit. At least that's what's known about this special force. However, the British government doesn't divulge much information about any special forces either because of the sensitivity of the information. Just like all of the other UK special forces, the SAS recruits only from the armed forces. And as with any elite unit, the recruitment process is a tough and draining physical test that sees most of the potential candidates drop out. Out of approximately 200 candidates that join the selection process twice a year, roughly around 30 people make it to the end. And we say people because in 2018, the recruitment policy changed to allow women to become members of the SAS for the first time. The toughest stage of training is known as endurance. This is where candidates march for 40 miles with luggage. And after they finish, they get the fun task of climbing up and down a mountain that's almost 3,000 feet high. Did we say endurance was the hardest part? Because we take that back, it's not. It has to be the resistance to interrogation test. This is where candidates have to last for 36 hours where they're really put to the test in all sorts of ways we're not going to describe here. Number 3, Nighthawks, Taiwan. The Taiwanese Nighthawks is another special force that's super secretive. Neither the training nor the qualifications are known, but that's a good thing for its members. The name Nighthawk was inspired by the highly secretive nature of the unit and their characteristic black uniforms. Their core objectives are varied. They include pretty much anything you can think of, such as providing security to top officials and foreign envoys, and any sort of military. The unit has been around since 1978 and regularly trains together with the U.S. Green Berets. And because they have training from the U.S., there have also been reports of the Nighthawks training in unnamed Middle Eastern countries' troops in anti-terrorist tactics. The Nighthawks bring a certain kind of honor to Taiwan since it's one of the few countries in Asia with special forces training capability. Number 2, Joint Task Force 2, Canada. The Canadian Joint Task Force 2 was created in 1993 to fill up the role of a new counterterrorism unit. This was after a team called the Special Emergency Response Team was disbanded. JTF2 is called the jewel in the crown of Canada's special forces. They're Canada's insurance policy when local police forces can't take on any emergency situations. JTF2 has done missions abroad in places such as the Balkans and Rwanda. Its members protect the Canadian Prime Minister and other high-profile individuals when they visit hotspots around the world. Despite being formed in only the early 90s, Joint Task Force 2 is the oldest and most skilled of Canada's special forces units. What makes JTF2 good is their training. The missions are demanding, and the intensity in the training is much more demanding. Basically, when they're not on a mission, they're training. Number 1, Jaeger Corps, Denmark. The Jaeger Corps is one of 2 premier special forces units of the Danish Armed Forces. The other is the Frogmen Corps. They were formed back in 1957 based on the UK's Royal Marines. The Jaeger Corps was created later in 1961, but its origins trace all the way back to 1785. Modern-day members of the Jaeger Corps go through a rigorous training and selection process. Fewer than 400 soldiers have been selected to serve in the small but agile force during the last 50 years. Once a year, soldiers from all over Denmark try out. The pre-courses train the potential candidates in land navigation, swimming, and basic shooting techniques. Throughout the pre-course phase, everything gets more difficult. Following pre-phase, the 8-week patrol course uses training events to assess candidates. They're asked to perform different scenarios that can happen in real life without any notice. Not surprisingly, 60% of candidates don't make it past this portion. Successful candidates then attend another 8-week course where they get trained in different military disciplines. Only around 10% of candidates who try out make it through. Here's what's next.